Well, Faye,
Yeah,
thanks
thanks.
thanks for hopping on for me this morning. There was an email that went out to the what formerly is known as the Spartan Pro Team, because there isn't a pro team anymore. Um,
hmm
and it invited you to something. Why don't you tell the folks what you were invited to?
I briefly read the email. I guess it was basically be invited to the 3K series. The They kind of plugged it as I don't forget the acronym, like the International Pentathlon. How I read it was the International Pentathlon, blah blah blah, is like really wanting us to show our talent in the sport because they are considering bringing it into the Olympics. So basically, like sort of carrot dangling, like if you want to be in the Olympics, this is a dream you've always had. Come up, show up at these 3K series, do a good job, and just sort of get your name recognized in the sport because we are moving forward into the Olympics. Was kind of how I read it.
I
Um,
think I think that's accurate. Um,
mhm.
the interesting thing for me is they're dangling. They seem to like it's like, here's things we're going to offer you that you didn't necessarily ask for, right? Like
Yeah, yeah,
like what do the pros want, right? Um, I mean, they probably first of all don't want a 3K series, right? But if that's what they're doing now, the second part is there's another great development. Thanks to World Obstacle, the top 10 male and female at all the events this year will earn the right to participate in a special athletic training program at the Olympic Training Center in Colorado Springs. Facilities are world class, networking opportunities. We're gonna have a roll down system, so be sure to come. So I read that as cool. When it comes to it, they're gonna be like, "Yeah, cool, you can come, like fly there,
I
and you can
know.
come." You know what I mean? Like it's not like they're gonna fly everybody. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. There's I've learned over the years of working with Spartan is to always get things first in writing, like get a legal contract, number one. And number two is um, to get things up front. So making sure you're not paying for your flights, paying for your travel, and then trying to get reimbursed. Um, that puts a lot of stress on the athlete. I'll be quite honest. When I first started Spartan, I had a pretty big contract, and I was owed by the end of the year when I did my taxes tens of thousands of dollars that I fought 6 months for. And this was at a time when I had left a corporate job in Canada in oil and gas and left a big, cushy corporate job to chase this dream. And by the end of the year, I'm talking tens of thousands of dollars that I had to fight for.
Can you
So
can you
since that experience, sorry, Matt.
your phone is really shaking. Can you just put it down?
Oh, I'm just okay. Yeah. So that was kind of stressful trying to recoup a lot of that money. This was back in 2016, 2017. And so since then, I've been always a little bit weary to, these promises by Spartan. And that was kind of what I responded back to their email. And I basically said to them, I was like, look, like, sure, this 3K series, like, yeah, maybe I'll come down and compete, but I'm still owed just shy of $6,000 from Spartan. So for me to fork out a grand here, a grand there, to get to these races when I'm still owed, $6,000, I don't want to be $10,000 in debt, like, 10 not in debt, but
So
$10,000
you were
owed to
talking. So
me
wait, you were
to race.
first you were talking about what happened in 2016. Now you're talking
Yeah,
about right now.
yeah,
You're
sorry.
right
I'm just
now.
Yeah, I'm just talking about current from that experience, right? I was like, okay, like I can't be doing this anymore. I need to see the money up front because you just never know when you're going to get it. It could be
So what are you?
literally years.
So what are you owed now?
5,500
From what events?
from sponsorship and some prize money.
Okay. And so you responded to this request saying, "Hey, I'd love to come, but pay me first what you owe me, and then I'll think about coming.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm in close contact with my sponsors. I know they've paid Spartan. Like the way it works is, you know, the sponsors will pay Spartan and then you'll get the money through Spartan. That's kind of their way of sort of holding on to the athletes, or that's just how they do things. Or I guess it was because it was quote unquote their sponsor to begin with. I don't know, but I'm in contact with my sponsors. I know the money has been paid to them. It just hasn't been paid to me. And that's the type of money. I mean, I don't, this is like, I fund my Spartan racing with only money that I earn through Spartan. I'm not going to go into my bank account and take out money that I've worked for, that I've done this to show up at a race. This is like purely what I do with like my extra spending money that comes from earnings from Spartan. So I can kind of count it as a wash, any additional money that I'm spending. So I won't go, I won't compete until I get my money from 2013, which funds, or 2020, which funds the next year. That's how financially I make this thing work. So I told them, like, I just think that I know that I've heard from some of the top athletes in the sport that that's one of the reasons they're not competing at the 3K series, is because they're hesitant. First of all, they're owed a lot more money than me. Like if I'm owed six, you can imagine there's a whole bunch of athletes that are, a few of them that are, you know, I'm talking tens of thousands of dollars. So for them to come and compete and pay out of pocket, like they're not going to do that. And then do they even know, are they even guaranteed that they're going to see this money that they earn at the 3K events, or is it going to be years later? I know Emma Cook, who was second at Worlds. I don't even know when she got the money, but that's a big reason she's not in the sport, is because she was, you know, nervous that these prize monies just weren't going to get paid out, because she was paying her own money, not being on the team. And it was, you know, months, maybe even up to a year later, that she recouped that money. It's just stressful for someone who's trying to, you know, who's organizing their finances and trying to just be at these events. So
Emma
I
Cook
don't
came
know.
second in Abu Dhabi, so that's what, 12,000. I think that's a big one, right?
15 grand, I think. Yeah, 15 grand.
Oh
So
boy, guys. Well, I think the other thing that people have to understand is that, and I've talked about this before with Spartan, is that it's never just one thing. It's the building on top of on top of. It's the lack of trust over years and years and years. And they come in and like, Faye Stenning, this is amazing. Like, look at this
yeah,
amazing opportunity we have for you. Like,
yeah,
ignore the hundreds of times you've been kind of screwed leading up to now, or that we haven't done what we said, or that we've been really late in information. I mean, let's remember, they just announced the 3K prize money a few weeks ago. It's now 2 weeks before. And, we posted some of the women that are going next week. We're going to post some more of the men that are coming today, but it's clearly not the top of the pyramid in terms of athletes. The other interesting thing that you need to know that I'm not sure you were aware of is, the advice from the UIPM is to get out there and race at appropriate events. Spartan 3K being right on the mark, is that what the UIPM shared with a little booklet here. Okay, this is their little booklet about how to get started in pentathlon, right?
yeah.
And
Oh, I
it's
didn't see this.
it's got some nice, pretty images here. The new pentathlon discipline is going to be a sprint course, 60 to 70 meters, comprising 8 obstacles, similar to what you've seen on Ninja Warrior or the Japanese original Sasuke. If this is familiar territory to you, all you need to do is to make sure you've got fencing, swimming, and laser run in your toolkit. That's it. That's all you got to
Yeah,
do, is also know how to
it's
fence.
such a different, just from a cultural perspective, it's such a different sport. Just from, like, what I love about running and obstacle racing is it's fairly affordable to get into. Like, it's like, especially like running, it's like you're a good runner, you train, like, you know, you can kind of get into it. This modern pentathlete is like the most like ritzy sport. Who, like, you would literally need a whole, like, you need all, not a horse, I guess that's in the modern pentathlon, but it's like you need access to all this stuff. It completely changes the culture of the sport. Like this, I just don't see this as a fit. I understand they're basically trying to, what's the saying, put a square in a square in a peg hole, or whatever the hell the saying is. But do you know what I mean? They're trying to squeeze it in into any event they could to get it in the Olympics. It isn't a good fit. It's just, it's the only sport that I guess is receptive to it. But no, it's not a good fit, and I don't think many people are in who came to the sport when it first started are excited about this at all. But that being said, you know, if it does excite you to go have an Olympic experience, go to the Colorado Springs Olympic Training Center and be part of that, that's great. And I'm sure that's going to excite a bunch of people, but you can't like keep taking empty promises from Spartan when you're owed several $1,000s from them. It's not fair. It's just, to me, when I read that, I was like, oh, it's another thing that I'm going to invest time and money in, and then I'm going to maybe see in 2026. And I don't want to do that anymore. Like, it's like, you know.
I think it's also interesting.
Yeah.
You know, we got this news last night. I got the email sent to me last night. You and I talked this morning, and I think the other interesting piece is that there is a USAOCR piece that Hosick is with, and it seems like they would have coordinated with them. And I haven't talked to Hosick about it, but I feel like that's they need members, and so it seems like that would have been a way to maybe have them both make the announcement around it. It's so funny. This is the exact promise that was made though in 2017. Like, I distinctly remember Jamie
Right.
saying, "Come sign up for this." The race was gonna be there. I think the race was gonna be at the training center, maybe, or that was the payout. That was like the big promise, is that you can go to this Chula Vicious training center, which is, by the way, where Battle Bunker was and where it's going to be again.
Mm-hmm.
So again, I'll give you another great phrase. It's lipstick on a pig. Okay. It's for Steve and
That's a
Dave,
good one.
to write this email. Guys, great news. You know what I mean? It's like,
Yeah.
it's just, and I listen, it's very corporate. That happens at a lot of companies, right? Hey guys, guess what? We're not going to be able to give out bonuses this year, but guess what? You know, here's a turkey, or here's a, I don't know, that's not necessarily the best example, but like, hey, we've got more coffee in the break room, or like, you know, it's, so I get, like, companies try to spin it however they spin it. It's just a very unfortunate thing. And I think, you know, Faye, you've always been very vocal, and I appreciate that, because I think athletes are afraid to say stuff like this because, first of all, you know, finances are private. You know, people don't necessarily want to talk about their finances or that they are struggling. But I do think that it's very important that athletes like yourself come forward and say, I take the sport very seriously. I take training very seriously. You know, you and your partner are out there helping others, right? You've got a coaching plan. You're talking to people every week who want to obstacle race. You give a shit about this sport, and you're willing to say, hey, Spartan, come on, like, let's get it together.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, we're not even asking for much. I think that we're all obviously understanding, like, this is, you know, times were tough these last several years with COVID, and we're not asking for big deals. We're not asking for any compensation. We're not asking for any travel help. All we're asking is that we can take the money that we fairly earned in previous years and put that towards paying for our this year's travel, because, like, that's all we're asking, and we just want those payouts to be paid. And like I said, I'm not going to drop names, but I've talked to several very, very, very good athletes that would be interested in the 3K if they were able to recoup the losses that they made last year from their prize money. Because that's the sad part is, you know, you do the math. If you've spent, let's just say you did 10 races last year, you spent $1,000 at each of them, you know, so that's 10 grand, but you made 12 grand in prize money, and you weren't paid any of that. Like, you're sinking every year as a professional athlete. And And that's some of the case, that's some of the instances that some of these athletes are in, who are very, very good, because we didn't get much help last year either. Myself included. I think I always kind of break even, because, well, that's part of me. I like to travel in luxury, so I usually break even. But I at least want to be able to recoup my travel costs from last year, so I could do
Yeah,
it
and I
again this
think
year. But
I think
it
if you're,
doesn't look likely.
yeah, and let's cut it in half even. Let's say you live on the cheap, you buy a ticket for 300, 400, but then you stay with friends or you cash on couches, whatever you need to do. It's at least 5, 600. You got to eat while you're on the trip. It's definitely at least 5, 600. So if you go on 10 races, that's 2,500 or whatever. I'm bad at math, but you get what I'm saying. Like, even if you don't
I
live
mean, to
even at the high life.
I don't know how. I mean, you'd have to, like, what are you? You're like traveling on Frontier Airlines and not bringing a carry-on. Like, I don't know how you travel, but are you like hiding a carry-on up your shirt and like going on Frontier, and then, like, I don't know if you're like staying in a hostel. I don't know how to travel with. I was staying on the lighter end of 1,000. I definitely spend more than that on most of these races. You got to eat. It's restaurant costs. I mean, it's not cheap. Anytime, you get to an airport, it's brutal, especially now since COVID. I mean, everything has really gone up if you're looking at flight costs currently. I looked at flight costs to this first race in April, the one in Boca or whatever. It was fairly cheap. You go on now and look, it's very, very expensive. Like, things go up. Like, it's so much more advantageous if you can book these things ahead. But like I said, I haven't booked any travel because I haven't got my travel stipend, aka last year's prize monies, in my bank account yet.
Well, I'm sorry to hear it. It's a bummer.
Oh, yeah. It's anyways,
Where will
I
you
just
where will
I
you
don't
be
know.
this what will you be doing this year?
Nothing. I mean, unless like, yeah, probably nothing. It's just I like
Deca,
to focus.
Savage, nothing?
No, probably nothing, just because I mean, if I do get some of this, if I do get the money back in Spartan in a timely manner, I will probably see if I could maybe jump into the 3K series, but probably not. Like, it doesn't make too much sense. We're pretty busy with coaching, and Jessica and I are both. Jessica, my business partner, if anyone doesn't know her, she retired. She was an Olympic athlete, so she's retired as well, and so am I. We've been really, really love focusing on the coaching. It's just been a lot of fun. It's been really busy, and it's been a good time. So I'm feeling very fulfilled living through other people's races, than racing myself. An example is we have a bunch of athletes going to Boston for the marathon this weekend. I'm going down from New York to watch and be a part of that. I realize it's more of the community, and just staying active in the community is what's more important to me than the actual act of actually competing. Although I do love that, but I've still been involved, just in a little bit of a different way, which has been nice.
Right. Well, you are getting old, Faye.
And I am getting old. Yeah.
JK, you're not old.
Yeah, I'm not old. But yeah, so we'll see what happens with this. I think, yeah, I do think, like, I don't want to poo poo on the 3K series, because I do think it's a cool event for those faster athletes. And if they make the obstacles, it'll be interesting to see what they do with the obstacles. It sounds like from the modern pentathlon, it's going to be more ninja warrior type. So a lot harder than the obstacles that maybe we saw in Jacksonville. And if that's the case, I actually really, really love that event for a lot of people. I love that it's going to showcase some of the obstacle proficiency and the athleticism in the sport, instead of just being in the woods for an hour. So I don't want to take away from the from the event, because it'll be interesting to see what they do in at the end of April.